Go ahead, Carly. Don't trip.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. This is our Managing and Growing Your Bubble business panel. We have 3 incredible founders who have all started and scaled their business on Bubble. I'm Carly. I lead our product marketing and content team here at Bubble. So thank you to everyone tuning in and for everyone here live today. As Josh and Emmanuel mentioned during their keynote, Bubble is as much a community as it is a platform, and we get questions all the time, not only about scaling your application, but how do you actually scale your business holistically? So who better to learn from than the 3 incredible founders we have here who are totally paving the way. So I'm thrilled to introduce our 3 founders. First is Sarabeth. Jaffe, she started and is the CTO of Hello Prenup. Hello Prenup is the premier online platform for prenuptial agreements, dubbed the TurboTax of prenups. Hello Prenup allows couples to take control of their financial futures before getting married by setting up responsibility for their student loans, business ownership, real estate, and more. Sarabeth has appeared on ABC's Shark Tank, Forbes 30 Under 30, and is passionate about building lean businesses with no code. The next founder is Chad Sakonchick. BetterLegal is a user-friendly website that simplifies starting and managing a business by offering step-by-step guidance to set up your company and the ongoing support to keep it running smoothly. BetterLegal offers affordable and efficient LLC and corporation formation services, register agent services, and compliance tools. In addition to running BetterLegal, Chad is also incubating the Masonry, Productivity Suite, and Comms HQ. And finally, we have Adam Alphin. Adam is the CEO of KleerCard, which is the leading expense management solution complete with bill pay, flexible P-cards, and credit solutions. Adam has spent his career building software that helps organizations better manage spend. Prior to founding KleerCard, Adam led product management for Coupa Pay. He has also held leadership roles at KPMG, strategic partnerships for Perfect Commerce. So if everyone can please give it up for our founders. So before we get started, I wanted to start with a little bit of a warm-up to kick us off. I'd love to hear what each of you wanted to be when you grew up before you started these amazing Bubble businesses.
A cowboy.
Bill Gates.
An actor.
What kind of actor?
I don't know, but I
The one
did
that
go
gets
to film
paid?
school.
A cowboy, maybe.
Yeah.
I was going to study him, and yeah.
Amazing. Well, it looks like everybody took a little bit of a pivot early on. Switching gears, let's talk a little bit how you found Bubble. I'd love for each of you to briefly share the story behind your business and what led you to Bubble.
I'll go. Yeah. As introed, I was a product manager at a publicly traded large Silicon Valley software company. It was a Ruby on Rails shop. I saw the bowels of the traditional way of building software. It seemed very bloated and clunky. And when I wanted to build this product, the thought process was there's got to be a better way to do this in a much leaner way. So I wanted to bootstrap it. I wanted to be lean. I love the kind of lean startup methodology. And that's what drew me to Bubble, that we could do a lot with a small team. And I started myself building something, realized I needed some help pretty quickly, and got an agency, shout out to AirDev, to help get an MVP off the ground, and away we went.
Yeah, so I found Bubble as a software engineer, computer scientist by background, because I kind of thought of the business idea on my own, and I was like, you know what, this will be my side hustle. I'll do this on my own. This seems like a very powerful tool where one engineer can build something incredible that would normally require, an infrastructure, a DevOps team, a front-end team, and a back-end team. So I figured this would be a small company that I would just do on the side. turns out there was a lot more demand for the product. And so, yeah, that's how we started on Bubble, staying on Bubble. And yeah, I still use my software engineering background to implement everything efficiently. And I'm a big advocate for folks still learning algorithms and database fundamentals while using Bubble. But yeah, that's how I came to Bubble.
So similar, BetterLegal was supposed to be a side project that was just supposed to bring a couple grand in a month. And we actually built BetterLegal not on Bubble. It was a 6-year journey to Bubble. We started with Asana, WebMerge, Zapier, and Typeform. And then we migrated to Salesforce because I had spent 7 years in the Salesforce ecosystem. I sold the #1 QuickBooks to Salesforce integration. I've been on hundreds, if not thousands, of calls with Salesforce SMBs. And we migrated to Salesforce, and it was just, the cost was outrageous. It was like $4,000 a year. I had 2 seats. And I was like, how am I going to support? I want to provide a customer portal to people. How am I going to do that? So we eventually went to code, and we ran BetterLegal on code for 5 years and just came to like a screeching halt in being able to, release new features because we were maintaining things, upgrading libraries. The server would go down, this and that and the other. And I was like, I don't need to be worrying about all this junk infrastructure stuff. I need to run the business. And so luckily, I'd kind of heard about Bubble here and there. And I did this build, sell 30 thing. And in 30 days, I learned Bubble. I took Kieran and Pablo's Bubble crash course. I listened to it on 2x speed. My wife refers to them as the chipmunks because I was listening to them at that speed. And I learned that I could build it. I luckily had someone reach out to me on Twitter and say that they could basically build what I needed. And that's how I got started. And I can say with full confidence that Bubble is the elegance that Mark Benioff wished that Salesforce was. And so, I fully believe that Bubble is going to just rip that bottom third of Salesforce's customer base and just, scoop it up.
Chad, you're making our jobs easier. Sarabeth, I'd love to hear a little bit about, especially coming from an engineering and data science background, what was your learning curve with Bubble, and how did you get over the learning curve?
Yeah, I think the learning curve initially to do the basic things with Bubble, it's super easy to jump in, and that's kind of how I like to learn, is start experimenting and see what you can do without looking up the documentation. So I think the barrier to entry with Bubble is a lot lower than traditional software engineering, where you have to set up your environment and everything. I think some parts of Bubble, the more advanced portions of it, like the back-end workflows, or the asynchronous nature of how things are run, are a little bit more complex. And for that reason, I think one of Bubble's strengths is its community. Not only the separate Slack channels that folks have and all the agency videos, but the Bubble forum as well, to kind of learn up on how to do things properly. So much can be done with Bubble. It's just a matter of learning the correct way to do things, whether it's on the front end or the back end of the system.
Yeah. And Adam, what was your learning curve, and what would you recommend to people that are new to Bubble?
Well, I already mentioned it, but yeah, I mean, I was a mildly technical product manager, so I knew how software was built. I was not certainly a full coder, but I knew what I needed. Right, I needed a front end, I needed a back end, I needed API connections to a series of partners, and I knew with that I could build a payments product. And so I think for me it was more about knowing my limits and knowing what I wanted to go get done. And so, I went through the kind of initial learning curve, kind of created some initial functional apps, but but I needed to do some more complex things. So I pretty quickly brought in some experts, and I mean and found an amazing engineer in that process, Eli Beachy, who a lot of you know. Yeah, Eli. We've been a great team. I'm kind of the functional side. He's the get it done side, and so it's been a great partnership. So,
Chad, any advice for new users to Bubble in addition to?
Learn how to code, so you know why you don't want to do it. So like I did Pascal in high school. I learned Python. I've learned Ruby. I've stood something up on Ruby. I've learned Apex, which is Salesforce's derivative of Java, and I just through all those experiences, I was like, why is it taking me 4 to 6 weeks just to stand something up to get started? Whereas 4 to 6 weeks is where I should have my first customer, and I should be talking about iterating this MVP.
Nice. Sarabeth, well, before I ask, how many Shark Tank fans do we have in the audience?
You.
Woo. So after your appearance on Shark Tank, I'm curious, what were some of the biggest changes that you made at Hello Prenup?
Yeah. So first off, I'm the technical founder, but I'm a big advocate for thinking about the business holistically and doing whatever needs to be done to get your product in front of customers. So we went on Shark Tank because it's one of the largest television shows that focus on entrepreneurs. It was hugely beneficial for our company. It made us profitable. Right after airing, we were able to bring on our chief marketing officer full-time. We brought on another developer, UI designer. And then from a technical perspective, we really put a lot more time into developing kind of our brand design, our brand voice, and making the customer experience as good as possible. As one engineer just trying to get things to work, it was like, all right, we have a solution. And I will say one of the other things we did right after Shark Tank is we moved up the paywall, and that really helped with our profitability.
Nice. So for everyone who has questions about marketing and sales, just get on Shark Tank.
Yeah, just do what you got to do.
Adam, how does your company, KleerCard, handle user feedback, and how has Bubble facilitated the rapid iteration of your product based on that feedback?
Yeah. So we're a B2B product, and there's no silver bullet to getting customer feedback. You got to put in the work, right? You got to talk to your customers. You got to understand their use cases, their pain points, and so that is built into our go-to-market, our implementation process. So most of our sales are done after a demo, so we understand that customer a bit before once we get them signed up, we then implement them. We've set up a whole process where we check in app post-implementation a series of times. And so I think that's, that you got to do the work, right, to get the feedback. Now, internally, what we've done, we do weekly sprints, right, which is unheard of in the classical developing world. We meet every Monday. We have large feature sets that we're working on to make progress, and then we think every week about what we call small wins. And so our whole team, we have a Slack channel around ideas, product ideas that people are putting ideas in there during the week. We're synthesizing those on Monday morning, and we want to get small wins out every week. And so, that's the beauty of something like this when you're of Bubble, right, is just the speed of execution. And so for us, it's a huge differentiator. So we hear an idea from a customer on Thursday, and we have it in production by Tuesday the next week. People are floored by that. I think agility, speed, and the lean way we can do it is just massive value.
Do you use the term of Bubble?
Of Bubble?
Is that what you said?
When? I don't know. Probably.
I like it.
I don't know.
I'm stealing it.
Of Bubble? Yeah.
Bubble. When you're of Bubble.
When you are of Bubble, yes.
We are all of Bubble,
yes.
wouldn't you
yes.
say? Chad, tell us a little bit what it's been like growing your team. How did you get started with hiring, and what have you found works well and not well?
I haven't had to. So with the almost 2 years that we've been on Bubble, it took about a year to migrate BetterLegal from code to Bubble. But that was largely just to catch all the edge cases, letting our team kind of use both systems and tell us where the new system, because there's just so many things. Once you've done something for 5 years, there's so many little things. You can't just rip and replace and go to a new platform. But I'm still using the same Bubble dev. And I told y'all earlier, the rebuild of BetterLegal, replacement of Asana. We rebuilt Asana within Bubble, our contract analysis AI tool, and we're halfway done with kind of replacing Twilio Flex, which is like a intercom kind of competitor. Has been about 360 total development hours with one individual. And that's not including the other projects that I'm working on at the same time, which all kind of feed into each other. But I think that the real important thing is that if you or you can hire someone that is an elite bubbler, there's a huge difference between someone who's elite and who can technically get it done. I've worked with other bubblers, and they've been okay, but if you can heighten your skills to a certain level, you just can go so blazingly fast that you actually can work with a really small team. And I don't really have plans on expanding my team. I would love to just work with the small handful of people that I have.
Yeah. Nice. Sarabeth, what about you as you approach growing out your company? What's worked well in terms of hiring, and what would you recommend to everyone here?
Yeah, I think so. Our team of engineers is still pretty small. I still contribute to the code base every day. So our engineering team is 3 folks. And we've been able to build great tooling, scale across 32 states, and bring on attorneys. We don't plan to heavily expand our engineering team, but we will probably hire another engineer. So if anyone's looking to join a legal tech company, let me know. But I think one of the things that really contributes to being able to build so quickly, 60 development hours, is the organization that is required to pass the product specifications from the management team to the developer. I think a lot of development time, especially in Bubble, is wasted by playing around with how you think something should work. And I think so much can be done with Bubble, but it does require a lot of communication within the engineering team or across the design team over to the engineering team, just as much as like a traditional product development team, and if so, even more, because of the way that that you have to. So I really just want to emphasize like how much communication and project management is important for our development team. We have a very clear system of in Notion who's working on what. What the mock-up should look like, which portions of the code should that touch. And that really helps the merge process be a lot simpler. So merging often and keeping our branches small has really helped our engineering team collaborate and push things out as quickly as possible.
Second on the keeping the branches small, that is so important, because once you just like let it go for months and months and you push something, you forget about something that happened 3 months ago, and
that's when the bugs
nightmare.
Get introduced.
Yeah.
And so pushing things out every single day, especially with a company who has eyeballs on the product, it is nice because you are getting that customer feedback to tell you about the bugs, but also, of course, if you don't have those guardrails to protect against those bugs being introduced, someone needs to know what was merged in and when. So having a very clear version control process with your team, super important.
Yeah. Adam, Sarabeth is touching on one of the differences for what it means to lead a no-code product. I'm curious, as a CEO and founder, what are some of the other changes that you think are necessary, or as someone leading a no-code company, how does that differ from traditional coding products and companies?
I would just say the fact that we didn't need to raise millions of dollars to spend a lot of money rebuilding the same systems that almost every system is using. I think the fact that like Bubble gives you like user authentication out of the box or 2-factor authentication, like really complicated systems out of the box that would normally, you'd have to like rewrite it in like your specific programming language with your specific and I think there's just so much rewriting that goes into starting a company with traditional code, and with Bubble, you can just like stand on the shoulders of the giants and build what actually makes a difference in your product.
Like not having to do a forgot password as like a complete.
Yeah, exactly. It's like some people have implemented that over and over again. That's the benefit of, you don't have to worry about those technical problems that those bugs are introduced in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, similarly, I think, we've been able to bootstrap it to date. So I think that's been, to build what we've built, it would be impossible to do that. So I think that's one big difference. The other thing I think about is we're building a product with a low-code or no-code platform, but we've also been able to automate a ton of internal processes with the same technology, right? So it doesn't just impact our customer-facing product. It impacts all of our whole team. We can come up with like we do a lot of underwriting, for an example, for credit lines for our customers. And so we have a whole series of things that have to happen. And so it's also been amazing just to automate internal processes, which I think is another great use case for platforms like Bubble. So, yeah.
What's something you've been pleasantly surprised by in Bubble recently?
We were hitting some scaling issues. We're on a dedicated environment, and we added 4 CPUs, and it fixed all of the performance issues. So that was great.
Nice.
Overnight, we fixed it. So yeah.
I would say the new merge process, although I have some requests for updates to that, but that was very helpful.
I'm struggling to think about what I have because I'm still like reeling from the fact that I'm moving. So it's been almost 2 years that I've been on Bubble, and just instead of me thinking like, oh, I wonder if I could do that on Bubble, now I'm just like, guess what we're going to do on Bubble tomorrow now? Like I have not hit a limit, and I used to be pleasantly surprised by that, but now it's just like an expectation.
Yeah.
Actually, one other thing, I just used database triggers for the first time, and it's like so helpful to keep your system synced with another system.
Yeah.
And I feel like I didn't understand that until like a week ago.
Yeah.
So there's still features of Bubble like 2.5 years in that you're still like, oh, that's what that's supposed to be used for. So it's just such a powerful platform. And I probably could have.
Database sync?
Yeah.
I didn't know about
Database sync. So
I've got some homework
we
after
sync
the
our
panel.
Bubble platform to ConvertKit, which is an email marketing platform. Anytime the user object is modified, it gets sent over to ConvertKit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then that's my answer.
Good answer.
Surprised on stage. It's great.
So putting yourselves in the shoes of a founder who's just getting started, whether it's about building on Bubble or otherwise, what advice would you give someone who's just kicking off their entrepreneurial journey?
So I think like a lot of things in life, strengths can become weaknesses. And the strength of Bubble is how quickly you can execute ideas. But what I see, and even here in the last couple of days, talking to a lot of folks, it's easy to get idea ADD, right, and get 4 or 5 different ideas going at the same time. And I understand there's some of that like experimentation that's important, but I think this community needs some big outcomes, and I think that's going to require focus. So I think for a founder, it's like, what's your best idea, and focus on that. And I think it'll be good for you. It'll be good for this whole community. So.
How do they know if it's their best idea?
That's what you got to figure out. I don't know. Yeah.
I think launching like immediately and showing people, because like you can talk about an idea till you're blue in the face, but like it's like the game of telephone. Every node, it gets like construed in a different way. So if you're telling someone something, you think you understand, that they're understanding exactly what you want to build, but they're not. So it's not until you can physically show someone and like do the click through and like let them see it. Because I've talked about a bunch of different projects for years and years and years, and it wasn't until I built it in Bubble and said, this is what I'm talking about, that their eye bulbs lit up and were like, oh, that's kick-ass. So you need to launch it immediately, even if it's just like nothing. Like just get something out there so people can see it and visualize it and start getting ideas. And then they'll start saying, well, can it do this? Well, have you thought about this? And that's that customer feedback. They're not a customer yet, but they get that customer feedback. You can iterate. Once you start talking to 10, 20 people, you find the patterns of what people are talking about that is the most common, and that's what you put into the product, and then you just go back and do it again.
What was some of that early customer feedback that really was an unlock for you as you were thinking about new feature development or product development?
Me?
Yeah.
Honestly, so BetterLegal started as just just business formation. We filed with the Secretary of State, did the EIN, and the legal documents, and kicked it off. And we didn't have any kind of MRR, and customers were like, can you be our registered agent? Like, what about the annual state compliance that we have to? And so we built that because people were asking for it, and we're at like 973,000 ARR right now. But if people didn't ask for this subscription feature, people were asking for a monthly subscription, had we just not built it or not listened to them, we wouldn't have a subscription feature right now. And I mean, that's the bulk of our revenue. So,
was there feedback that was informative or instrumental as you guys were developing and prototyping early on that really resonated or unlocked your teams?
For us, we have always really been focused on simplifying the process that we offer, which is prenuptial agreements, which is very legal jargony, very financial focused. So we're constantly taking customer feedback on how we simplify the process and also customize it to what the users are looking for. So we both do customer interviews regularly, and we also watch user replays to detect patterns in how they're using our system. And now that we have attorneys on the platform, we're all back to answer the original question about advice for an entrepreneur. If you can validate the idea before you even start building it, and I know it's very tempting to start building it just because it's fun to build it, but if you can force yourself to at least talk to a few people and not ask them leading questions, or create a wait list for your product idea, try to validate that before you go all in. And then when you go all in, don't have any fallback plan. I didn't have another job. I didn't pay myself for a year, and that really pushed us to be as successful.
That user replay thing. So we use InspectLit, but there's Hotjar and all these other tools, and just being able to build something and you think people are going to use it a certain way, and then you watch them and you're like, why are you doing that? And so that helps you understand how to iterate your product. So 100% on investing in that type of software. It's huge, huge win.
Yeah, I mean, I think some more advice here, like suspending preconceptions, right? So we had this. So we do expense management for small to mid-sized businesses. We focus on what we call Middle America, and so we had an idea of what that would look like from like what industries we'd be serving, but we got some surprises, right? Like we noticed a bunch of churches coming to us who wanted this product, and that was not a sector we set out to go serve. It sort of happened organically, and so I think just and that's been a vertical that's worked really, really well for us. So I think just listening to the feedback that can happen as you get out there, and even if it's something you didn't maybe set out to serve, that there's real opportunity there. So, yeah.
Nice. This is the last question for the panel. I'm curious if there's any misconceptions about no-code or Bubble that you'd like to address based off of your experiences scaling your companies.
I think one of the misconceptions is that it's just for an MVP and that it won't scale for thousands of users or businesses won't use it because it's on no code. Our platform was able to take on hundreds of thousands of visitors when we were on Shark Tank. And when you have a viral moment, you're always concerned about, is the platform going to be able to scale? So I think if you build it in an efficient way, it can definitely scale. I think the hardest part of no code when you're scaling it is then the team engineering collaboration. But the many, many users.
My company wouldn't exist had we not migrated to Bubble. Like, we were spending so much money and just burning so much cash on multiple front end, multiple back end developers just to wade in the water and not move forward. And had I not made that decision when I made it, we would have completely run out of money. Being able to go from 4 to 5 developers to 1 Bubble dev and 1 back-end dev was completely changed the trajectory of my business. Now we're profitable, or year to date we're lost $4,000, so we're almost profitable. But I just see I get into these arguments on X, and people are talking about code and like, oh yeah, no code's cool because it's an MVP, and I'm like, I'm total opposite of that. I went from code to no code, and I'm never going back. I'm never creating something on code again. Now, that's not to say that I don't have elements of code that run the business. So, like our automations with the Secretary of State, we've got a whole host of automations that run that, and that's built on something on Selenium. And then we have some things that we've cobbled together, some libraries on an AWS EC2 server that we expose to through Bubble through the API connector. So like code, it's not like code versus no code. It's like no code is the core, and then code gets infused to add that secret sauce that makes you unique. And so I kind of laugh every time I just continually see more and more coders just talk about how they'll never go to code, or, oh, I can't export my app, and so I'm locked into this ecosystem. It's like, yeah, okay, so you're locked into Heroku or AWS or Azure or whatever. You're locked into somebody. You're paying Google for Gmail every month. Like, you're going to be locked into these things. It's how the economy works. So, like, 100% no code is here to stay, and it's going to be the foundation of every single business I start moving forward.
Yeah, I think for me, Chad loves no code. Yeah, I mean, we're fintech built on a no code platform, so I think we're kind of unusual. So I think for us, the misconception is that you can't build security sensitive products on these platforms. So it requires a bit of creativity. So all of our sort of user and basic transactional details are stored in our application. But there's sensitive data that we deal with, like credit card numbers. That's not stored, right? So but with an API call to a partner system that stores that in a super secure way, we can display that as needed. And so I think just don't limit yourself on some of these security compliance stuff. Think through it fully. And think about partners. Like, there's a lot of partners that are an API call away, right? You can build a lot of cool stuff with some API calls. So, yeah, I think that's mine.
I love that, an API call away. You're full of all the good little quips today.
Amazing.
Cool.
Thank you so much to our speakers. Can we give a round of applause? Far and away, some of the best learning that I've seen happen on Bubble is user to user, and one of the amazing parts of all being together here in New York is there's the opportunity for so much of this sharing and learning, so I hope that continues the rest of the day, and thank you everyone for your time today and for joining virtually. Have a great rest of your BubbleCon.
Thanks for having us.